there you are. All right, we are starting a live broadcast, and okay, sound is rocking. All right, let's.
Do I have to get closer to
No, I
this
think
thing?
we're good right here, and
Okay.
So hey, Teresa,
Hey, how are you?
I'm good. Good seeing you again. Long
Nice to
time.
see you.
So everyone, this is Teresa Martin, probably the best CDE I know, and I know a lot of great ones, so I'm not dissing anyone else out there. This is the woman that really taught me about my disease and has helped me go from the guy that was nearly, at the time I think I first worked with her, maybe 380, something like that, to 2 days ago when I was with the doctor, I weighed I'm sorry, 235. Ring the
That's
bell,
awesome.
ring the bell. My
Yeah.
A1C, Teresa, and I haven't told you this because we haven't talked in a while, is down to 5.8.
Awesome. That's really good. That's
Now,
normal.
that's
Yeah.
normal? Like I
Well,
like
pretty close. It's in
pretty
the
close?
pre-diabetes range, but yeah.
Okay, good,
Wait,
good.
5.8?
5.8.
Yeah. Just it's 5.7 to 6.4 is pre.
So I got one more point to get down, then I'm
That's
like,
actually good where you're at.
it's good?
Yeah.
So what we want to do today, y'all, is if I can do this, you can do this. Does that make sense, Teresa?
Yeah.
Before you, and now what we're trying to get this together because I'd like to have her on with me as often as possible. However, she's out in Oregon, I'm in Atlanta and San Francisco. So when we can, we'll do these broadcasts. We'll try to get questions like we have today. And I may have to get someone to work with me on this production end because I can't see the back of the camera. So if you guys are giving us live questions, I'm gonna take a minute, walk behind the camera, Teresa, and read the questions, and then or you can walk behind the camera, read the questions. We can, because if you get one, I'll read it. If I get one,
Okay.
whatever,
Sounds good.
whatever. So,
Wait, we should have a mirror back there.
oh, that's a good. Well,
No.
can we read
Good.
upside down and
We can.
backwards?
No.
I'm going to take a quick look while you tell people. If I may, I'm going to ask this question: why should I? And I'm using myself as a person, and I know why, but I want people who are watching us. Why should we see a CDE?
Very good question.
You like that one?
Yeah.
Good.
So first of all, a CDE is it's a certification process. So it's a certified diabetes educator, and anyone that has a 4-year degree in healthcare of some sort, like a dietitian or a nurse or a doctor or a social worker, pharmacist, all of those people can go on to get extra certification in the field of diabetes. So when you get that, it's pretty extensive, about 1,000 hours of face-to-face education. You have to pass an exam. So these people know a lot about diabetes, and the job of a CDE is to turn you into the expert, because this
I
is
like
a
that.
disease that you manage. If you have
Right.
diabetes, I don't manage it, your doctor doesn't manage it, you're the one that manages it. So go ahead.
Great comment. No, I like that. And that's one of the things that when I'm out teaching classes, uh, how to prepare foods. I mean, and you and I talk about this a lot. We can eat anything. It's just how much of that anything we eat. Now
At
that's
one
my
time.
take. At
Yeah.
one time, right?
Yeah, and even the speed in which you eat it makes
Oh,
a
whoa,
difference.
whoa, whoa! That's a
Yeah.
new one. I love it when I hang out with her. She gives me these little nuggets. The speed at which you consume
Which you
the
eat.
nutrition.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, or drink.
tell me more.
Yeah.
Tell me more.
Well, if we need to back up first. So
Okay.
the diabetes educators turn you into your own expert. There's a bunch of different things that you can become an expert in. Food is one of them. But if you look at what diabetes is, though, diabetes is that your body can't really get the fuel from the food that you're eating the way it's supposed to. So
I
when
love
we
that.
eat, we get fuel. That fuel goes into our body and floats around the body, and the body gets access to it.
Okay.
So
Diabetes is that my body is not processing the fuel properly.
correct. So if you think of it even better,
I get
you
an
can
A, y'all.
say diabetes is a disease that messes up the way you use your food for energy. So
Ooh.
I don't have diabetes. If I eat an apple, that apple gets broken down to a bunch of things, one of which is sugar. Sugar is the primary fuel that your brain uses, your nervous system uses. So if you don't have enough sugar floating around in your brain and your nervous system, you're actually dead. So if I took all the sugar out of your bloodstream right now, you'd be dead. So it's
Wow.
incredibly important to have that nice, even fuel all the time.
I have I have an interesting time when I'm working with her because there's so much information coming at me and I'm trying to take it all in and I just kind of like get stuck because as a person with diabetes, did I say that correctly?
Yep.
I'm not a type 2 diabetic. I'm a person with type 2 diabetes. Did I get that right finally?
Yep.
After
Yes.
years of working with her, I finally am able to say that properly. Um, these are things that have helped me. And we've got questions that we're gonna answer and talk about. Did I throw you off track? Because I've got something I want to bring up, and then we'll let you take it over again.
Yeah, I was going to go back to the speed in which you eat, but I thought if you kind of understand what diabetes is, so the food coming in, you have all these hormones that kind of get produced the second food touches your mouth. There's hormones in your gut. There's that hormone insulin. If you have diabetes, you've heard of that before.
Right.
Insulin's job is to get that fuel into the muscle cell, into the fat cell. And what happens if you have diabetes is there's a little bit of a delay in when that insulin starts working and then how much you can make.
Oof.
So if you imagine all this fuel coming in super, super fast, if you can't deal with it because you have diabetes, the faster it comes in, the higher your blood sugar is going to go.
And that's what causes all those problems. Vascular, eyes.
Well, everywhere that blood goes, which is basically your entire
whole body, right?
That blood is affected by that high sugar. So if you have lots of sugar, the blood actually is a little bit thicker. It's not really doing as good a job as it could be as far as how quick it moves, how quick it gets nutrients to where it's going. But the biggest thing is that there's molecules in the bloodstream that carry oxygen, and they get totally messed up when that sugar
because of diabetes. So
because
so
the sugar's high.
diabetes to the body is like an accident on the road.
Yeah, well, it's kind of a chronic accident.
You know what I'm saying? But I'm
yeah,
saying,
it's always happening.
Right. We're
yeah.
trying to. I really want folks to get this because it's like when you're driving down the freeway and there's an accident, everything gets clogged up and you're sitting there, and then it causes more and more problems, right? So when we've got high sugar floating in our body, which I had, and now I'm getting it under control, and if I can do it, you can do it, right? So there's a lot of steps, and getting back to that initial question of why should I see a CDE?
Is, well, basically there's probably 75 different behaviors or more that we ask people with diabetes to do to manage it. And that's just too much. If I gave you a list of 75 things to do, you'd look at me and be like, I can't do it.
I'd freak out.
So a really good diabetes educator, and there are a ton of them out there.
Yes, I know a lot of them.
A lot of them.
Yeah.
Is to have somebody that's working with you to say, today, what's the number one thing that's on your mind, that's upsetting you, that's concerning you, that's scaring you, and then we can focus on that one thing.
That one thing. All right, can I throw, well, wow, see what I mean, guys? I start working with her and all these things because as a person with diabetes, although I'm managing it better, Teresa, I still have stuff I'm working on. And I want to write it down so I can come back to it because I want to share with you as well as the people watching us that and the people that may watch us later. I posted on Facebook and all the social media sites that I'm doing this with you, and I want to get questions. And I say to folks that, we can help you. I mean, I can help you manage your diabetes, but I can't, as you said earlier, I can't manage your diabetes. So I get a call from a friend, family member. I've gotten several calls. And one of my calls, the person said that they didn't want to go to the doctor. And I said, well, why? And the answer was, I just don't want to know. Because, and my friend was being very honest. They were like, well, if I don't know, then maybe I don't have it. And I'm like, I took a deep breath and I counted to 5 and I said, well, a lot of times our mind makes it worse than it really is, However, we can't get better if we don't know where we're starting from. What would you say to people that, like this caller, was afraid to see the doctor? How do we break that, right? How do we?
Yeah. I love the car analogy. So if you think of a car, if you just drove your car and you never ever checked under the hood to see if you have enough oil, if you never looked at any of the gauges to see if there's enough fuel in the car, if you never checked to see if there was enough air in the tires, and you just got in your car and you just drove it, and you drove it till the oil ran out, there's no windshield wiper fluid, the tires are flat, you're riding on the rims, but you just keep driving it. The cost of all that is going to be way more than if you filled the fuel up when you're supposed to, so you didn't go all out of fuel. If you put some oil in there so you don't blow out the entire engine. If you have air in your tires, you don't ruin the tire frame and need a whole new steering shaft. Right. And that's just how your body is. Diabetes is one of these diseases. If we catch it early, today, this is one of the most recent statistics to come out on longevity of people with diabetes. And this is just really good news for those of you that have diabetes. People with diabetes that manage their disease, we don't say control anymore, you manage it.
Right,
You are the one that's in control of it, but you're managing your disease. Your life expectancy is now longer than that of somebody who doesn't have diabetes. So let me repeat that. If you have diabetes and you've got it really well managed, meaning your blood pressure, your cholesterol, and your A1C, your blood sugars are pretty stable, you're eating healthy, you're exercising most days, you're seeing your doctor, your expectancy, life expectancy, is now longer than that of the general public. So why do you think that is?
I don't know. I'm sitting here. That's the best news I've heard in a long time. So
Yeah.
tell us.
Yeah, so think about diabetes. If you right now went out and you just ate a whole bunch of fast food and a
Right.
big milkshake and followed with apple pie, your blood sugars would skyrocket. You wouldn't feel good. You would check your blood sugars the next day, they'd still be high.
Right.
You know that now you have to take more medication because of what you did. There's a consequence, almost an immediate consequence to a really poor decision.
Right. Wow.
So I don't have diabetes. I go out and eat the exact same meal, and it does some damage to me, but I don't do anything about it.
Right.
I don't see the doctor. I don't have to adjust medications because I don't have diabetes. I don't exercise because I don't have diabetes. I do exercise.
She does. Yeah, she's a runner.
Yeah, but if you think of it that way, that if you manage this disease, no longer are you, let me stop for a second. If you think about all the things you're doing, eating healthy, checking your blood sugars, exercising, taking your medications, seeing your educator,
I'm
seeing your
truly
doctor,
trying to reduce the stress.
meditation, yoga, all these things that you're doing, what do you get from that? Nothing. You don't have a heart attack. You don't get cancer. So it's really
you threw me a curveball there. I was like, whoa, where's she going with that?
But nothing happens to you, right? And so when we talk
nothing
to
but
patients, healthier.
Right.
But now we can actually say, well, if you do all that, your life expectancy is actually greater than it was before you got the diagnosis.
Wow.
For the general public.
Wow.
And it's because you are managing your exercise. Maybe you're more motivated to eat healthy. Maybe you don't say, you know what, I'm going to eat whatever I want for the next month. A lot of us do that from, I think it starts October 31st and it goes all the way to January 1st.
Whoa.
People just eat and drink and do whatever they want. People with diabetes, they
can't
can't
do
get
that.
away with that.
Right.
Your health diminishes right then and there before you.
Wow.
So that's really good news. But managing the disease is so critically important, and you have all these skill sets to help you manage that disease. So a good educator, back to that first question, is that we offer you little things, little steps. And I love the quote I heard from, it's another podcast, but it's a podcast called The One You Feed. And one of the quotes they use is, a little bit of something is always better than a whole lot of nothing. A little bit, just eat one carrot, just take one step after dinner, just stand up every half hour.
Yeah.
These little tiny things that you do, but every single day, they have huge impact. So.
Right on. Okay. See what happens, and we go. I'm starting to take it in what she's teaching, and you had some comments, some questions that you had.
Well, no, I was kind of writing down some of the most common questions I get as a diabetes educator, and there's a lot of, I wouldn't say hype, but back in the 80s, the low carb diet kind of really was popular. Dr. Atkins really made it popular. The zone
Hey, that's my
diet.
cousin.
Sorry.
Not really.
But carbs have gotten a bad rap. And when you have diabetes, you're told, hey, don't eat carbs. And why would you think that is?
Well, because carbs become sugar, and sugar makes us have a heart attack.
So what's a carb, though?
A carb truly is anything that's not, protein or fat. Carbohydrates are sugar. Carbohydrates are bread. Carbohydrates. Am I answering that correctly?
Yeah, I'm just trying to, I'm testing you to see what but it's
See
a
what-
hard one because I'll ask, I'll go into doctor's offices and people who know this disease inside out, and I'll say, how do you describe what a carbohydrate is to your patients that have diabetes? And I get that. It's sugar, it's this, it's pasta, it's that. But what is a carbohydrate?
It's fuel.
It's fuel. And it's, you've been listening.
Yes, I have.
So, it's a nutrient. And it's our primary source of fuel, and it's the only nutrient that you can get access to the fuel right away. Within a few minutes after eating that meal, those carbs are getting broken down to sugar, and they're getting into the bloodstream and fueling your nervous system, your brain, but also your muscles. And so if you don't eat any carbs, your muscles will actually use protein. I'm sorry, not use protein. Your body will use protein versus carbohydrate for fuel.
Gotcha.
So now you can become protein deficient just by eating a super low carbohydrate diet, because you're going to use protein for fuel versus carbs. That's their primary thing.
Carbs is the fuel.
Yeah.
Okay, y'all, this I got to share this with you. Not only is she a certified diabetes educator, she's also a dietitian with a, make sure I say this right. I've been saying promoing.
Yeah.
You have a master's in applied nutritional science.
Yeah. Applied nutrition. Yes. You got it down. Yeah.
Okay, so when it comes to nutrition,
Yeah.
this is that interesting thing. Now, again, I don't like the term guinea pig. Never did, except for the little animal that people sometimes have pets with. I am living with diabetes and some of the things that I still struggle with. And I know it's me, and I work on this. I still love salty chips. And I'm having, especially like when I'm on the road like this, and it's so easy to stop at the gas when at the gas station, and they don't have, an apple or. And I've really gotten good though. Is getting hummus and pretzels. That's kind of my snack when it's available. However, I'll see those chips, and sometimes I just get, I'm like the fish with the hook. I just go right into them.
Yeah.
How do we train ourselves? What is it about salt that I want?
Yeah. Well, there's three kind of ingredients that trigger our brain. We get there's the brain basically does two things. It seeks out pleasure, and this is the kind of the older part of our brain. Seeks out pleasure and avoid pain. So whenever you're creating a habit, usually if you did something that caused pain to go away, like maybe you take a pain med, and your pain goes away, the brain says, aha, that pain med is something I need to seek out.
Keep going. Right.
So it gives you a
Makes
hit
sense.
of dopamine, which is a beautiful habit-forming chemical, which is beautiful. We need it because that's what gets us to eat and it gets us to sleep. And there's reasons for it. You get dopamine when you hug someone. I mean, there's all sorts of things that you get. So chocolate gives you dopamine as well. So the brain's seeking out pleasure. Food gives me a dopamine hit. That's a really good thing. Or avoid pain. So those are kind of the two things. When the brain touches or gets a hold of something that used to be critical for survival, salt is a nutrient that we can't live without.
Right.
We don't eat very much of it, but it is a nutrient that we can't live without. So if we got a hit of salt in the environment that we were at, our brain would give us a hit of dopamine and say, eat some more of that. Sugar is another one. So if I was eating like leaves and twigs and I come across a strawberry, that strawberry has more calories in it, which will keep me alive longer. Dopamine hit. Tells my body, don't eat the twig, eat the strawberry.
Makes a lot of sense.
Now say there's a milkshake next to the strawberry. That has even way more sugar in it, so I'm going to push the strawberry aside and I'm going to go after the milkshake. The next thing, so sugar, salt, and then the other thing that your chips have is fat. So fat is also very, very high in calories. So when I eat something with fat in it, my brain goes, yes, that will keep you alive longer than those twigs over there. So I get a hit of that wonderful habit-forming dopamine. And like I said, dopamine's good. It's really, but it's what's driving our brain.
Right.
So food manufacturers know this. Fast food manufacturers know this. Anyone that makes a product that's trying to get you to overeat it will put fat, salt, sugar. So if you look at some of the chips out there, they actually have sugar in them. Usually the ones that are coated or, the sweet and sour. Well,
so when I see my chips,
your brain is already giving you a hit saying, if you eat that, you're going to get pleasure. So it's kind of like drugs.
Right.
It's the same exact thing as drugs.
It's very interesting. And it's very interesting. There are times that I see, man, no big deal. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And I'm sharing this because I don't want to ever assume, but I'm sure a lot of folks are going through the same thing. Like when I haven't eaten right, not there's a right and wrong eating, but when I haven't had anything in the morning, like I like my oatmeal, my nuts and things in the morning with my cup of coffee. So, but like today I'm driving and I hadn't eaten anything in the morning. So I'm stopping at the gas station and of course the chips pull me in, right? So, which leads me to the two questions. One, that kind of thing, eating keeps us from junk food if we're feeling full, right? Other thing is talking about calories. I know you have questions, and I don't want to keep us here all day because we've been going about 5.
Back up a little bit on what you just said. So with diabetes, one of the really big triggers for wanting that little dopamine hit is if you have a low blood sugar, your brain is going to drive you to go eat something, and it can't really tell that potato chip doesn't have sugar in it, or that that cookie doesn't have salt in it, it's just going to get you to eat anything.
Something,
So your
right.
defenses are really low. So it'll be much harder to say, I'm not going to have those chips when your sugars are low. So that's
Good
one.
point. Yes.
The second is if you're really stressed out, your brain is also seeking out comfort. It's saying, this isn't good. Something bad is about to happen. What would make me feel better? Chocolate.
Does that make sense to you all? Please leave comments. We want to know what you think, because I will get these to Teresa and we can have more dialogue about this. So I'm sorry.
Yeah. So my bottom line with all this is, so what do you do about it? So one thing, like you said, if you get up and have a nice hearty breakfast and you know what you're going to eat for lunch, so you're planning ahead, you're less likely to be a victim of just, hey, the food was there. We call it the Mount Everest syndrome. Why'd you eat that? Because it was there.
Because it was there. I love that.
So you're less likely to say, you know what, for lunch I'm going to have this. For breakfast I had that. That chip came in, but that wasn't part of my plan. Now, if you stick to your plan, you also get a dopamine hit. Our brain loves when, just think how good you feel when you say, you know what, tomorrow I'm going to go for a walk, and you actually do it. You're like, yeah, I'm rocking it. I'm awesome.
Yes, yeah.
Your body does like to do what you've set up to do. And so it feels good to be successful. So remember that. Planning ahead.
I told y'all she was good. I told y'all she was good.
But planning ahead is a huge part of it. And then limiting your exposure is another.
Right.
So
it's like we always talk about in our coaching.
yeah.
You know, you prepare, you plan, you prepare, but be ready if the plan falls apart, right? So
yeah.
in my car today, I actually had oranges.
Nice. Yeah.
You know, however, I didn't grab because we were in the back of the car. I didn't think
Convenience,
for it right. Exactly. So I'm in this.
Yeah.
I go in truly to use the bathroom. I use the bathroom and I'm coming out, and the chips were like, you know, that was what happened.
Yeah.
Okay, so was
So
there
what
more? Because I got one quick
What could
question.
you have done to limit your exposure in that case? You had to go to the bathroom, so what could you have done differently?
One, I could have had some of the orange before going in.
Yeah, well, you had the oranges up front. But what about you're already in there, you're already hungry, so your plan's failing. What would be a good thing that would not, I don't like the word good and bad. What would be a beneficial thing to try?
Waiting. I mean, having water, waiting. I mean, there's a lot of things I
that.
could have done. I didn't do them because, you know, I fell short.
So
I'm not beating myself up. Of course I want a suggestion. I'm not beating myself up, but of course. I mean,
so the harder we make it to get access to these foods, the less likely
leave
we
my
are.
wallet in the
There
car.
you go.
Oh,
Because
you're
then
right. You're
gonna
right.
have
You're
to
right.
walk all the way back out to get
Exactly.
it. And
That
that
could have got
amount
the
of
orange.
time, just that little bit of break between the stimulation of the chips and wanting them, you had the break. And you probably would have seen the orange, and then you know what? I'm not going back in there. It's too much of an effort.
It's amazing because last night, as I'm driving from the Bay Area up to Humboldt, I plan, right? I stopped at the grocery store, and I'm, you know, and I was hungry. And never shop when you're hungry is what is that rule. But I had my game face on. I'm going through, and I got some apples, I got nuts, I got all the stuff I want. And then I passed by the candy aisle, and I grabbed the bag of Reese's or whatever it was, right?
Yeah.
And then the two sides are going, okay, do you really? Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
So, and then I see this oatmeal cookie. I go, okay, put the Reese's down, get the oatmeal cookie. Okay, so I did. I put it down, got the oatmeal cookie. Turned out the oatmeal cookie was one of those super duper
it might be even worse.
But it was one of those, it turned out one of those health bars.
Oh, it was okay.
It was a good cookie, but it tasted terrible.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're going to kind of wrap it up because I know we've been here quite a while now. You've got work to do. And you've got questions, but we can save those for the next time, I'm thinking. I want to ask about calories. Is a calorie or calorie not a calorie? Like potato chips, a bag has 320 calories in it. A piece of cake has more calories. A steak has calories. What is, you know, again, we don't want to use good and bad, but I don't understand empty calorie, and I don't understand, like if I eat broccoli, it's got calories, but potato chips have calories. Why can't I eat the potato chips to get my calories?
Yeah. So first of all, the empty calories is basically, if you want a definition of that, it's just if you're looking at something that doesn't have any nutritional value to it. So soda is a perfect example. If you have soda, there's no nutrients for the calories you're getting.
Okay.
So there's a ratio, and you can actually look at the ratio, and it's called nutritional density. So broccoli is one of the most nutritionally dense foods on the planet.
Nice.
It's just most of your non-starchy, like broccoli, mushrooms, cauliflower, zucchini, all of those dark green leafy vegetables like kale and beet greens.
Is that what they call the superfoods?
Superfoods, yeah. But the reason they're so super is that for every calorie, say a whole cup of broccoli has, what, 40, 50 calories, but it has massive amounts of vitamin C and has, well, not massive, but it has vitamin C, it has calcium, it has got just such packed with these other things called phytochemicals, antioxidants.
Big word, dictionary time,
Yeah,
phytochemicals.
big bang for your buck. So if you think that little tiny cup of broccoli, you would have to eat 75 days worth of potato chips to get that same amount of nutrient. That's not a good comparison.
But I get you.
Yeah, but the potato chip has a little bit of nutrient in it. It definitely has the calories and has a little bit of, well, a lot of salt and fat.
Right.
But it doesn't have a lot of different variety of nutrients or quantity of nutrients for each calorie. So you look at 25 calories of chips versus 25 calories of broccoli, you've got cancer-fighting antioxidant powerhouse broccoli, and you've got a little microscopic amount of potassium and maybe some vitamin C in the potato chip, but not enough to even show up.
So it's almost like if we've got precious metals.
Yeah.
We've got copper, silver, gold,
yeah.
platinum.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I like it. I like
and
it.
when you look at cost, I hear a lot of people say, well, good food costs more. But if you look at the calorie density, the nutrient density, you can always get more out of the whole foods. So say a cup of broccoli costs 30 cents.
Yeah.
And you can get a bag of potato chips for 30 cents, say.
You're going to live better with the broccoli.
Well, the cost per nutrient is so cheap for the broccoli. You're not going to get much from
the
potato chips.
This is fascinating. Okay, I'm checking our time. I know you have some wonderful questions. Do you want to run through a couple of them? Because I've got an idea that, and you guys got to tell me if you want to do this, because I really want to go shopping someday when we have a time.
Yeah.
And I'll tell folks how to buy the produce item, and then you can like the kale, right? How to pick a good thing of kale, and so why should we eat the kale, right? That kind of thing.
Yeah.
Okay, so
that's a good idea.
Got questions? Do you want to?
Well, no. Another, I was getting back on that carbohydrate. So people say, well, I have diabetes. That means the body can't take my food and use it for energy the way I'm supposed to.
Right.
Carbohydrates break down to sugar, so we have to make more insulin after we eat carbs.
Mm-hmm.
So I hear a lot of people say, well, then I just won't eat carbs. I'll live on fat and protein. I'll have steak and eggs and cheese and bacon. And that's not very healthy because remember, carbs are our primary nutrient that gives us fuel. So that instant calories for the brain and nerves. So the question people ask, well, then how many carbs should I eat? And are all calories created equal? Back to that question. A calorie is not a calorie. A carb is not a carb. So I can say soda has, and I'm throwing this number out there, depending on the size, say 40 carbs, or 40 grams of sugar in it. And you compare that to, say, an apple, and you have to eat about 10 apples to get 40 grams of sugar. And so then you say, well, it's both sugar, right? Sugar's a sugar. Yeah. A calorie is a calorie. It's not. So a carbohydrate in its whole natural form, such as non-starchy vegetables, fruits, whole grains, oats, even your beans and lentils, and a little bit that's in nuts and seeds are mostly protein and fat. But all the carbs that come in these nutrient-dense foods are very, very healthy. They get broken down very slowly, and they're what your body's using to fuel your brain and your nerves and your muscles as well. Wow. So those are great. But if I take the same number of carbs from just straight sugar, say a candy bar, the Skittles, or the soda, there's nothing else in those foods. So a lot of that gets absorbed super quick.
And it doesn't stay with us.
It doesn't stay with us. Our body's going to have to get that fuel and put it somewhere. If you've got diabetes, it's much harder. So the whole carbs, or the whole food carbs, are very healthy for us. The processed carbs are the ones that we really tell people to limit, have very small portions, or say you're going to have that piece of cake, eat it really slowly, enjoy it, savor the flavor. Nice. And that's going to be, it'll go trickling into your system versus shoving it all down really fast, and now there's an emergency inside the body.
Wow, this is, guys, it's like what we can learn when we visit our certified diabetes educators. Okay.
And dietitian.
Tell dietitian, nutritionist, diabetes educator. So is there a distinction between, tell us the
Yeah,
distinction.
well, the dietitians, so there's just like you have a registered nurse, you have a registered dietitian nutritionist. So that's a person that has gone to school for a minimum of 4 years to get a degree in dietetics. Then there's an internship after that. So that's the kind of
Wow.
the expert in nutrition is your registered dietitian or registered nutritionist. A lot of them are calling themselves RDNs now, registered dietitian nutritionist. So it's basically that's one thing.
Okay.
The registered is the big part because you can call yourself a nutritionist.
Well, I am.
Yeah.
Not.
So RD or RDN is what you're looking for when you have food questions.
Registered.
Right. Dietitian, nutritionist. A diabetes educator can be a dietitian, or could be a nurse, could be a pharmacist, and that's the certified diabetes educator. So a pharmacist might be a certified diabetes educator and be able to teach you some about food, as could a nurse or case manager. But if you want to go a little bit deeper, I'd always say get that dietitian that's also a CDE.
CDE.
Yeah.
I love it. Any other tips before we wrap this up? Anything you want to share with our audience? And
Well, since we've been talking about carbs, just to go
Okay.
back to what are 3 things to think about when you're eating. Number 1, if you have diabetes, try to spread your food out throughout the day. So maybe eat every 3 to 5 hours. Eat something that has a little bit of carbs in it to fuel your brain and your
Okay.
nervous system. The second is when you're looking at labels, it can get very confusing. So look at total number of carbs is going to be the best predictor of how high your sugars will go. So for women, we usually say 30 to 45 per meal. For men, we usually say 45 to 60 per meal.
per meal.
And then it goes up from there based off of your physical activity.
Gotcha.
So if you're training for a marathon, I'd be like, you got to eat 200 carbs per meal. If you're laying in bed all day, I'm going to tell you got 30 carbs.
A meal.
So that's the kind of looking at those
So
carbs.
the more active we are, the more carbs
And why would that be?
Because we're going to burn them up. That
'Cause
fuel.
it's
We need the fuel.
It's just like if I drive my car from here out to New York City, I'm going to need a lot more fuel than if I just have my car sitting in my driveway. You have to
Makes
eat
sense.
more carbs when you're more physically active. So 1, eat every 3 to 5 hours.
Graze like I do.
2, and you don't have to, like grazing
Well,
sometimes is every
yeah, it'd
1
be
to
too
2.
much,
Yeah.
yeah.
2,
My bad.
look at total carbs versus zeroing in on like all the little micronutrients. Those are important, but just for the big picture, total carbs. And then 3, probably the most important, is eat your food as close to its natural food source as possible. So an apple needs less insulin than applesauce, which needs less insulin than apple juice. So as closer you get to that whole food,
That apple.
the slower it gets absorbed and the less your sugars will spike.
Okay, so I did a, and we're going to wrap it up very shortly, guys. I started talking to you. There's so much I want to bring out. The other day I did a tip on the channel, buying apples, and I said an apple a day doesn't keep the doctor away.
Mm-hmm.
What's your thoughts on that one? Like
Yeah.
An apple a day.
Yeah, well, an apple a day, it's packed with nutrients. It has fiber, it has vitamin C. A lot of the nutrients are phytochemical sounds big, but phyto is plant, chemical is chemical. So there's plant chemicals that are very beneficial to our health, and those are found a lot in the skin. So you want
Right.
to peel your apple. You might want to wash them, but
But-
eat that skin. It's where the fiber is, a lot of these phytochemicals. There's also these really nice fibers in apples.
And the apples.
Yeah.
Did I tell y'all she was something special? She knows her stuff. Send your questions. Put your comments on the comment section. Subscribe to the channel. Hope to have Teresa on again. Not sure when, but maybe we can do stuff via Skype or questions.
Did
and
you
that
want to
kind
see if there was like one question to take live or not?
of- Let me see. Well,
Okay.
I just feel like we might be.
Overdoing it. How long have we been on here?
We've been on for 33 minutes. We had a good TV
Sweet.
show.
Yeah.
And the problem is, we've got viewers, but I can't see their comments. So
Okay.
should we say goodbye to everybody?
All right.
This is our first time. Well, my first time having a guest doing one of these live broadcasts, and it's been fun. I'm going to go back and check the sound, make sure everything went right. I plan to re-edit it and post it up again. Parting comments?
Besides the eating food close to its natural food sources, that's where this guy comes in, and that's make it taste good. Enjoy your
Ooh,
food.
I like that. Thank you.
So if you don't know how to make it taste good, that's another great thing to say. How do you make kale taste good? How do you
See
make
the chef.
broccoli? Yeah.
Yeah.
And so you didn't really introduce yourself because you think everyone knows you, but who are you as we wrap this up?
Oh, you want me to introduce myself? Hi
He's a
y'all,
chef.
I'm Curtis. It's my YouTube channel. I'm a chef. I love cooking. I was a coach. I've coached sports. Written cookbooks and all that stuff. And working with Teresa and other great dietitians. I don't want to knock anyone because they've been fabulous, and I try to learn from each nutritionist, dietitian, certified diabetes educator I work with. And I hope I've shared something with you guys. I hope I've taught you all things about ways of cooking food to keep great flavor in, but with less saturated fat, less sodium, less of things that can cause problems inside this body with diabetes. So, you know, send us your questions. All right, we're gonna give them a peace sign. Peace out, y'all.
Thank
Holla. Thank you. This was fun. This was really fun. Yeah, I appreciate you doing this. Let's see if I can end this broadcast here. So I think it's still picking up our sound. 35 minutes. Are you sure you want to end the broadcast?